Can you describe what CWD is in your own words?
This farm has been in my family for over 120 years now. I'm the fourth generation. Over the generations, a farm was carved out of it. The quintessential Wisconsin dairy farm, the red barn, the white house, the white milk house, the silos. Just looks just like the Wisconsin license plate. I had sort of this unique upbringing on this property. We worked our tails off out here, but a part of that was the joy of having a piece of property that we did multiple things on. Sure, we farmed it, and yes, we had cattle, and yes, we had pigs and chickens and all of that, but we also hunted, and we spent time in the woods, and we learned about the natural community. And that's the thing that has resonated with me ever since. CWD is a communicable disease, an infectious disease that affects white-tailed deer in our area.
It was a big deal when the state of Wisconsin confirmed chronic wasting disease back in the early 2000s. And because for a long time it had only been in the western United States, so it essentially was in populations of very low density deer and elk herds, very low human population, so there was not a lot of hunters, there were not a lot of animals, so it really didn't have a chance to spread very quickly among those deer populations. All of that changed when it arrived in Wisconsin, because now it was in a very high density herd, in a very hunter populated state where you had a lot of hunters on the landscape. And at that time, scientists and managers knew very little about the disease. To defend the state of Wisconsin a little bit, at that time, they used the best available science that they had. Unfortunately, that was a very hard pill for hunters to swallow.
Wait a minute, you want to do what and why? Because I didn't know much about the disease. I didn't know it was the existential threat that it really was. So I understand that in Iowa County and Dane County, south of here, where the original infection was found, that people had real questions about it. But when you looked at the science, it only made sense that this disease was going to continue to spread.
The NRB, Natural Resources, and politicians took measures to try to reduce CWD prevalence by implementing gun deer hunts in the middle of October, implementing Ernebuck, and we know that those tools worked.
There was pressure put on and funding was taken away and laws were changed. Management went from being science-based to being politically based. And the politicians took over deer management. 20 some odd years later, after 10 years of very good attempts by our Department of Natural Resources to control the disease, that management was given up. It was abandoned.
So Missouri confirmed the disease much later than Wisconsin, which at least gives them the benefit of more science, more information on how to combat it, how to engage hunters in this process. So one of the best ways to fight the disease is to lower deer numbers so that they're not coming in contact as much or leaving as much infectious material in the environment to infect other animals. So Missouri's approach today is very different. One, they're engaging hunters and landowners, which I think is a perfect thing to do. And two, they are not using the term eradicate. A lot of hunters will talk about some of their efforts as trying to eradicate or remove deer, but that's not the case. This gets used more than anything else in the Missouri example around targeted removal or some of the sharpshooting programs, where once the State Wildlife Agency identifies an area of CWD positive deer, they work with landowners and go in and target, strategically remove additional deer in those areas. That is the single most effective way to remove CWD positive deer from the landscape.
In Wisconsin, I wish we could go back and do more to try to reverse these trends. It feels like a little bit of an issue that's too far gone in certain areas of Wisconsin, but that doesn't mean we give up the fight. It's a really sad thing, and it's kind of depressing just with the way it's affected a lot of my personal hunting and people that I know.
So CWD is affecting the deer herd here now. 43% of the deer killed on this farm last year tested positive for CWD. South of us, it's having a fundamental effect on the health of the herd, the size of the herd, and the demographics of the herd. The herd south of us especially is trending younger and trending smaller because of chronic wasting disease. CWD is established in this area, and we have one of two choices. And people on the edges have one of two choices. That is, we're going to manage the herd and the disease, or CWD is going to do it for us. But if we are involved as hunters and landowners and conservationists with the management of the herd and therefore the disease, we have some input into it. That smaller herd will be a healthier herd and hopefully will have a stronger demographic. It would be a sad day if our deer were so disease-ridden that we had very few, or that we couldn't find a healthy one to shoot. I fear that day is coming. If it's test positive for CWD, I don't consume the meat. I don't feed it to anybody else.
The top folks studying this and the smartest doctors on prion diseases suggested we do not eat venison that is CWD positive. And the only way to know that is to have that animal tested.
It's affected like how much venison I've been able to acquire. Since 2019, I've had personally 8 out of the last 11 deer I've shot have been positive for CWD. 8 out of the last 11 since 2019. That's staggering. That's a bummer. And not only, is it a bummer just because that deer continued to shed its infected prions throughout the landscape, but you have to throw that deer away. I enjoy venison and I rely on it for a big part of my diet, and so it's very disappointing when that happens.
Personally, it pains me to shoot a deer, find out it's positive, and then not be able to consume it. It's very difficult for people who are making a decision not to eat positive deer because there's a lapse. There's a couple of week lapse in the time that you send a test in and the time you get the result back. But when you add in that specter of the disease and the possibility of what it's doing to the herd and what it's doing to this animal that you love and what it might possibly do to us and to humans in the future, it puts a bit of a cloud over the whole idea of hunting. I don't even care about deer anymore. I shouldn't say I don't care about deer anymore, but I have lost so much of the passion that I used to have for it. There's nothing more gut-wrenching than seeing a sick deer.
3 years ago, I was walking up one of our main ridges to go turkey hunting with my dad, and we get about halfway up the ridge, and I said, "Dad, look over there. There's a buck standing 15 yards away." That's one experience where I almost wish some of these CWD deniers could have just been with me to just feel like I just felt that feeling of doom come over me, of oh my gosh, this is CWD right here in front of me. You could tell it was in the end stages of CWD. It was shaking, frothing at the mouth, very skinny, emaciated. It was just a terrible feeling. It just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
Those kinds of experiences are gut-wrenching. If you're a hunter, you want that deer at its best. I know it's incongruous because we're out there shooting them, but at the same time, we want the best life for that animal until the moment where we end it.
If other states don't take some of the mistakes that we've kind of made and learn from that and implement them into their programs, I think, unfortunately, they could be next.
If hunters and landowners ignore CWD, they can just look at Southwest Wisconsin and see what happens. The disease will spread more quickly, it will grow in prevalence, the herd will become smaller, and it will become younger. If you manage the herd and reduce population and target the most likely deer to have CWD, you can control the disease. You will still have a smaller herd, but you will have a healthier herd and you'll have a herd into the future. If you hunt in an area that doesn't have CWD, do everything that you can to keep it from coming there. If you are hunting in an area that has CWD, do everything that you can to keep that prevalence low and that spread slow. Work with your neighbors.
If you don't have CWD, you don't want it. And if you do have it, fight the spread.
No hunter wants to have CWD in their area, and I'm certainly the same way. However, it's not the end of the world. as long as we engage, and every single hunter has an opportunity to engage in this fight, and I strongly encourage them to do that.
If you care about deer, you should care about CWD.